Okay, in this episode of Star Trek, I was almost ready to say they'd gone a bridge too far, and in fact, I was ready to agree with the number of naysayers saying they really shouldn't have gone here to begin with. That is, until seeing the very end of the episode. It at least made some kind of sense. Hello out there, I'm the oldest nerd. One of the oldest tropes in Star Trek is the transporter accident. In the original series, Kirk was split in two, good and bad, sent to an alternative universe, was caught in an interphase in Tholian space. Sulu was stranded on an ice planet. Kirk was almost killed by the planet killer. In the Next Generation, a landing party was turned into children. Riker was split into two equal people and one abandoned. In Voyager, Tuvok and Neelix were combined into a new being, Tuvix. In the motion picture, Commander Sonak and an extra decomposed in transit, and I'm certain the list goes on. However, in this case, Scotty, trying to beat the long-distance transporter record, I didn't realize it was one, causes a level 5 transporter malfunction. First time we've ever heard that term. It turns the entire crew of the Enterprise into puppets, except for Spock, who happened to be on a shuttle for some reason. I could almost say that stranger things have happened, but not really. At first, it's funny, but the suspense comes from a boarding by Orion pirates and the realization that all the controls on the ship are haptic and will not respond to felt. This is where the writers left their senses and made it progressively more ridiculous the way I see it. I cringed at the scene before Pike was thrown off the ship. My wife said, "Please don't." Subsequently, the Orions became less like the real villains, but more like the henchmen of a Batman villain. I'm talking the Adam West Batman. Standing around tripping on their own feet. At least the puppet crew could have done some Home Alone deterrents, dump marbles or thumbtacks or something, and made it a little bit more interesting. Seems to me in writing this episode, the writers must have realized at a point that they had gotten so ridiculous with it, they had to do something to get out of it and make it the least bit plausible. And in doing so, in putting in the last scene, which I kind of think was an afterthought, they succeeded in saving it. But I kind of wonder how many people checked out before that last scene. As far as the quality of the production, I thought they did a very good job with the puppets and their caricatures of all the main characters. It was interesting to see what they did with Pike. Pelia was especially fun with the way they did her eyes. The other characters, it captured their personality pretty well. But back to Pelia, she really didn't do anything very interesting except try to be snarky towards Scotty. In fact, she's supposed to be the most experienced engineer, and all she really did was just make comic remarks. I love the actress, but I find that they really didn't need her on this except for the comic relief, and she at least could have helped Scotty fix things. Nevertheless, and also we don't know if she's ever worn shoes before now. We haven't noticed this, but they do show it that she has bare feet, or, her puppet feet are bare. The only character that really shows any growth in this episode is Spock. We know already that he's been edging toward his Vulcan side more and more, and in fact invited T'Pring to catch a ride back to Vulcan on the Enterprise, and with hopes that she might help him get prepared for going back to Vulcan and doing some heavy study on being more on the Vulcan side than the human side that he's been showing during this whole series. But it seems this episode pushes farther in the direction of Spock going to his more logical type that we remember from the original series. He was helped by the T'Pring puppet, interestingly, to realize that in this situation, logic was not the way out. When you have a crew of puppets, you don't do a normal logical thing in order to be able to fix things. You go completely whacked out, kind of like they did in I, Mud, if you remember that one, where they had to goof around in order to confound the robots. Not one of the best shows either. Yet the exception proved the rule. By the end of the episode, I think that what they did was show Spock that he'd be a whole lot better being a logical character than being an emotional one. And I do admire the show's practice, generally speaking, for aiming for the fences. And most of the episodes we've seen in the series, they've done pretty well. I particularly like the film noir last week. The musical actually was very entertaining, but this one was just a different level of bizarre. I don't think this has ever been matched or will be. Perhaps it's not the worst episode we've ever seen, but it's certainly far from the best one. I rather like their willingness to take a chance. Science fiction is all about finding alternatives and looking at things in a different light. But in this case, while it was not pure comedy, it really didn't have any deeper meaning to it either than, hey, what if we made the crew puppets? There was no metaphor. There was no comparison with current life. Just what would happen if the crew turned into puppets? This is without a doubt the best Star Trek series of what we call New Trek, in my opinion. And I believe that many of their episodes will become classics and people want to watch them again and again. I just don't believe this episode is going to be one of those. We invite you to join us next week. We will have another episode of Farscape to review, and then back with Professor O on Thursday. We're going to be talking about silent running. We hope that you'll join us for that, and be back next week for whatever Star Trek dishes out that week. Until then, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe, and don't go far.